There's a moment in growth where you look around and realize, I don't belong here anymore. Not in an arrogant way, but in a deeply confronting internal shift. The people around you, the conversations, the standards, they don't fit not only who you're becoming, but even to a degree, the person that you currently are. But the new world that you are trying to shape, the next level that you are trying to reach, you're not fully there yet, right? That is one of the biggest voids and struggles that we see in self-development and leveling up. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to move through this, not just by finding better people, but by becoming a better version of you who belongs in those higher performance rooms and then curating what comes next. So the real question was a question prompt that came from a client. And this was one of the best check-ins that I think I've ever received as a coach, as a performer, as an athlete, because it wasn't about food, training, or results. It was about the recalibration of identity, the evolution of self-development, and almost the evolution of self in general. And it kind of went a little bit like this. How do you surround yourself with like-minded people? How do you or Matter Athletica encourage to build the right community that supports your growth? Now, it's important to understand that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you need to go together. But what is important as a nuance inside that topic is going together with the right people, with the right frames of mind, and the right belief in the process. Going together with the wrong people is almost an anchor. That's why this question matters. It signals the moment that someone realizes they're in transition. Their identity is upgrading and the old version of them no longer fits. The important part to understand is you don't wait to get invited. When discussing new rooms and walking into new rooms or discussing new groups and trying to find the right social circles and the right level of evolution that you want to be a part of, you don't wait to get invited. You have to build yourself into the person that fits into those rooms. Most people are waiting for the right people to find them. You don't get into the room and then act like someone who belongs there. And this is something that high performers subconsciously or consciously seem to understand. The average person seems to struggle with this concept. They should just be included, that these rooms are exclusive and they're restrictive, they're segregating. What's important to understand is that you act like that person now. You become that person, you build that version of you that belongs, and eventually the right doors start to open because you belong inside that room. They want you to be a part of it, and you won't have to ask to be let in. A personal story to this that I think is quite relevant and was an example that I used when sharing this with the client's check-in was that I didn't get or join my mentor's mastermind group and then start acting like the person who I was supposed to be. There was a lot of self-development. There was a lot of isolation. There was a lot of that time inside this void that we're talking about where I was already acting, building, or creating this version of myself, of the business, of me as a coach, refining my processes, defining who I am, and kind of creating this next version of me in order to be let into the room that my mentor thought that I should be a part of. Basically, I didn't get in and then become, I became and then was let in. So you can't fake this growth. You have to build it. And an easy takeaway is high performance rooms don't accept application. They seem to accept evidence and proof of action. And that is a really important quote to understand when you are looking at trying to find new rooms. You don't want to find simple social circles and new social circles that are just stagnant and at the same level that you currently are. You are trying to find and curate rooms and circles that are going to force you to level up. This leads to our next point. Once you're in the room, you need to curate it ruthlessly. Not everyone in the room deserves access to your table. So a key point that we encourage is that proximity does not equal permission. Just because they're around doesn't mean that they're aligned and doesn't mean that they're a good fit for you. Not everyone in the same room as you is heading in the same direction, has the same beliefs, the same values. There can be many reasons why conflicting or disagreeing people can be in the same room. They all might be high performers. They all might be aligned in the fact that they get after it in their space, but they may not be the right people for you to be around. That doesn't mean that you leave the room. It means that you curate who sits at your table. So some of the filters that we use for cultivating and curating this type of filtering system is, do they live with ownership? Do they live with accountability? Do they sharpen or do they drain you as a system? Are you as the individual emotionally, mentally, physically, psychologically? Do their actions match their words over time, or do they seem to continue to be flaky or misaligned with what they say versus what they do? Do they lean into discomfort and challenge, or do they tend to stay comfortable and stagnate? Some easy, actionable tools that you can use are trying to find real world struggle environments that you can share with an individual and see what they're made of. Inviting someone to a hard training session. Do you want to go to, I've got a leg day coming up. Let's go try this CrossFit workout. Let's go for a 10K run. Creative collaborations, so projects to work on together, to share together. Maybe it's collaboration between two businesses, two thought leaders, two ideas. Late night conversations. Now, I'm not talking about like 2 a.m. in the morning and stargazing and looking into each other's eyes and making it all romantic, but genuine late night philosophical conversation to see where you align, where you disalign, where you are no longer on the same track, or perhaps you can have conflicting beliefs and ideas and find a compromise or mutual agreement as to why both factors might be important. This is where pressure reveals character. Good people aren't always your people. You can be picky, you can filter, you can be precise. In fact, we encourage it. The next part that we like to share is what we call the sacred void and why most quit here. So this is probably the loneliest part of growth. And that is where old circles don't fit. Old friendships perhaps aren't aligned anymore. Old destinations, old hangout spots, old environments you used to engage in, they no longer fit. And that can be very, very emotional, can be confrontational, can be very existential. But the important fact here is also that the new ones haven't fully formed. You're trying to create yourself. You're creating this new version of you. You are building this new version of you. And everything's leading in the right direction, but you haven't quite found those rooms yet to be in. You haven't curated those rooms precisely. Now, this is where most people pull out. They fill this void with distraction, regression, and fake connections. This is, in my opinion, in the thought processes that we build out for this sort of circumstance. This is the test. This is part of the test that defines how badly you really want it and if you actually want what you say you do. If you stay consistent here, show up, execute, live with your values, the right people will find you and want you to be around. Not because you beg for access, but because you became undeniable in the fact that you should be there. The right people will eventually find their way around you and invite you to the process. So to the client that asks this question, their check-in, to anyone else in this sort of phase of growth, I have been there and I understand it. It was a long process, years of silence, isolation, of avoidance, of loneliness. But the thing is, the important thing to understand, you're not building a circle. You are building a standard that the right circle will align with and they want to be a part of. Your presence will force others to be better if they are the right people, and inversely, they will force you to be better. Our belief is that the tribe doesn't come before the values. It comes because of them, and they recognize what you stand for. Be the proof, filter through friction, protect your energy. You don't find alignment, you become it, and then alignment finds you. Really easy reflection from this topic, from this point in this conversation, is who in your current circle would survive your next level if there was to be a filtration, if there was to be a filtering process on your evolution? Who are you showing up as today? The version that's still waiting, the version that's asking to be let in, or the version of you that is demanding entry to the room, that is going to be accepted in the room because of who they are, not because of who they're trying to be? So this is just a small window into a deeper school of thought or philosophy that we're building out, that over time we're going to release and share, and eventually it will be an important part of how we do things. But we believe growth isn't just about doing more, it's about becoming more. And the rooms that you walk into will always reflect the identity that you carry. So it is important that you build it first. Don't fake it, actually build it, and then let the rest catch up.